I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, January the 8th, brought to you in part by Performance Livestock Analytics. Performance Beef is a software designed by cattle producers for cattle producers. It simplifies feeding, performance, and health data recording. The employees at Performance Livestock Analytics are always there if you need them. Give them a call. They're ready to answer your questions. Check them out at performancelivestocanalytics.com. Cold weather, hot market. We have not seen things back up at all since we've come back from the holidays here, and as we're getting into this first full week of the new year, we are going gangbusters now. We're seeing hot markets, new highs on calves and feeders all over the country. Local prices breaking records there, and then we're also seeing all-time records for the life of the contract on many of your CME cattle contracts too. It's just gangbusters. Everything is pointing up. There's a lot of new interest in your CME cattle futures. We don't see that very often. We've got the highest open interest recorded on live cattle since 2020. And on Monday, they traded 371,715 contracts. Now, normally, your cattle futures are a pretty shallow pool. It makes us feel a little bit better whenever we get quite a bit of trade going on in there. It's not quite so easy to whipsaw the thing back and forth. So we're glad to see a lot of new interest, a lot of new longs coming into the cattle futures. So that's a good thing, and we feel like maybe it's got a little bit of something underneath it. Now, the cold weather, we've seen a big blast come through the Midwest there. A lot of your sale barns in Missouri especially were forced to cancel this week already, and we didn't see a sale barn or a sale at Callaway Livestock in Kingdom City, Missouri, right there in central Missouri. We didn't see a sale on Tuesday at Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri. Those are big sale barns that don't cancel easily, but it just the weather and the snow and everything just made it tough enough that they weren't going to be able to get enough cattle there to justify their buyers coming in, and didn't feel like they were going to kind of have the market that they wanted to represent, so they were forced to cancel there. But that's how bad it's been there in northern Kansas, most of Missouri, and now it's moving on out to the east. But this next one that's coming through this week is going to be further south than that. Going to be hitting North Texas, moving over across Arkansas, and then off there through part of the southeast. So, and then it's going to have cold temperatures with it and some ice. They don't deal with it as well as they do way up north, but it's tough conditions out there. And people, when you see on Facebook and stuff, people are worried about the cattle. Cattle don't mind the cold as long as you've got something for them to eat. They've got their own furnace there called a rumen, and as long as you got something for them to eat there and they can get that rumen working, they're fine. Now, they don't like cold and wet. Well, nobody else likes cold and wet either, but if you can give those cattle a place where they can have a dry place to lay down and give them plenty of roughage to eat, they're going to be fine. And cattle actually do really well as long as they're not having trouble getting around in the feedlots and things. They'll really eat a lot, and they'll do really well and perform pretty well. Sometimes if it gets to extreme temperatures, it takes some of that energy or more of it than usual to keep them warm. But for the most part, cattle like it when it's cold outside. But we saw some unbelievable prices. I was at Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma on Tuesday, and just an unbelievable sale. In fact, they broke all-time records for that sale barn on 7 and 8 weight steers many times, not just one draft or two, but broke it many times. They had light 3 weight steers, not a lot of them, but a couple packages, good enough size to make a difference. Bring over $5 a pound on light 3 weight steers. I was able to sell some of those record-breaking prices there at Beaver on Tuesday, including a load of steers that weighed 818 at 274.50. And we don't have farmer feeders down here in the Southern Plains. Those cattle were going to a feedlot and weigh 818 at 274.50. That is very, very impressive. We did hear that maybe the Mexican border is going to open around the week of January the 20th. That's tentatively. And they're saying that when it does open, they will open to a few cattle, and then not sure why. I'm not sure why they don't just flood the gates if everything's right and they've got everything under control. But they say they're just going to open it kind of slow and start moving cattle through the system that way. But I wouldn't think it'd take very many days of crossing those Mexican cattle before they start moving at a normal type pace there. But I don't think that's going to affect the market in the least bit. We're used to those cattle. We haven't had them of late. But most of those are going to be, some more commodity type cattle, and there'll be some grazing type cattle. They've kind of got their own market. It's not going to affect anything too much, and it's a long ways from where our high cattle are selling up in the Midwest, and they got those long time weaned fancy feeding calves, which they're starting to sell here early this year. But let's look at your board on Tuesday. February live cattle futures were up 37 cents at 195.57. April was up 50 cents at 197.77. Your back months on live cattle up 52 cents to up $1.02. Just continuing to be positive. January feeder cattle up 210 at 268.40. March was up 237 at 267.92. Your back months on feeder cattle futures up $1.80 to up as much as $2.27. Your March corn contracts up 1/4 cent a bushel at $4.58. March beans down 1/2 cent at $9.97 1/4. And Kansas City hard red winter wheat for March up 2.5 cents a bushel. Not much movement in your grains. You wouldn't think so when everything's froze up. But 5.55 3/4 there on your hard red winter wheat. Fat cattle trade, as you would think, this early in the week, we haven't really seen anything take off on direct sales in your 5-area feeding region in a negotiated manner. We did see a few sales so far this week in Iowa, a few hundred sales there, ranging from $197.50 to $2, but nothing that's going to set the market really. But I wouldn't be surprised if your fat cattle don't gain another buck or two. As aggressive as these packers are and as short bought as they were, they're really trimming down the slaughter here just because they don't have a lot of cattle on hand. I'm sure they're needing the product, but Kansas sold a few mixed steers and heifers there at $196. That's not the market. Now, we did have a market maker up in the Northern Plains, Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. Now, that's a brick and mortar fat cattle auction, the biggest one in the nation. It's a trendsetter. It's a market finder, guys. I was talking with Greg Ryken there earlier in the week, and he said, this still kind of is surprising me. He said normally we'd come out of the holidays there, and he did have a sale last week, but it was on an off day, didn't have a big run there or anything, but he said normally we'd be coming back to our regular Tuesday fat cattle auction at Yankton, and Greg said, we might have 4,000, 4,500 fat cattle, and he's kind of got the same consigners typically, week in and week out, but he said we're not going to have that many. He wondered if they'd have 2,500 on Monday. He ended up with 2,700 fat cattle, but that's still a little bit less than normal for him, especially coming out of a long holiday break there. And he said they're just not out there. That tells you something right there, guys. How about conventional fat cattle at Yankton? Just your straight up steers and heifers, bringing from $197 to $203.50. That's the market there. It was $4.50 to $5 higher than the last good test. Program cattle in Yankton, the non-implanted or drug-free cattle, sell from $202 to $212.50. You think some of those packers aren't getting aggressive for some of these better cattle? That was $4 to $7.50 higher included in there. You think they're not taking them big, guys? They sell 38 non-implanted steers, weigh 1973, nearly a ton apiece at $204. I don't ever want to hear anything about fitting the box again, guys. How about box beef cutout values? They were kind of mixed. Choice was down 131 at 325.79. Your selects were up more, up 210 at 305.43, and they were up big earlier this week. Your slaughter, it's disappointing, but it's better than the comparisons. 235,000 estimated cattle slaughtered through the first 2 days of the week. That's 10,000 better than just last week and 46,000 better than the same week a year ago, where we had a really bad storm coming in there that was holding the plants up a lot more than it is this year. Talk about what else is going on. Lynn's Heritage Angus. The Lynn's outfit, they put their money where their mouth is. Some of these buyback programs where the seed stock operator will come in and buy some of the calves if you're using their bulls, some of those are better than others. A lot of those buyback programs are kind of last minute afterthoughts, just trying to draw in buyers there. But at Lynn's Heritage Angus, their livelihood is dependent on a steady supply of high quality Angus fats. And you can count on their buyback program if you want to start participating and using their genetics on the bull side, guys. They've got their sale coming up January the 16th. Going to be in Byers, Oklahoma. You can get on at DVAuction.com, view and bid that sale. They got about 140 bulls for sale. And you can get on there early. Go on to DVAuction.com and go down and find the Lynn's Heritage Angus sale and go on there and look at the videos of the bulls, and you can look at the pedigrees and kind of do some shopping here before the sale. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on DV auction based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states as of late Tuesday after all the sales were closed. 273.39, up another 219 on top of Monday's sales there. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index trying to keep up, sitting at 270.229, but it's just one step behind because it's running behind a day before they put them out, but it'll be right in there too. Some sales coming up here that you might want to look at. Stockman's Livestock in Dickinson, North Dakota, going to have over 4,000 cattle for their Thursday feeder cattle auction. Some really, really nice consignments on that. Get on to dvauction.com and check it out. Sale coming up this weekend. Wrestler Land and Cattle Company is having their 9th annual seed stock sale. They've got 50 bulls they're going to be selling, 2-year-old bulls, and a lot of top genetics from the Red Angus breed there. They've got some straws there. They've got some frozen genetics to sell. They've got a few females they're going to sell. Really, really top Red Angus cattle there. January the 11th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's going to be on DV Auction. You can go to Cooperstown, North Dakota. Check the sale out. Might be a lot warmer sitting in your pickup or in your office, and get on to dvauction.com there for that sale. Talk about your big feeder sales on Tuesday. I mentioned earlier that Ozarks Regional Stockyards in West Plains were forced to close there. You don't see that happen very often. Beaver County Stockyards, where I was at on Tuesday, had 3,800 feeders there. They're going to have about 800 more cows on Wednesday. But for their feeder sale, they have federal state market reporting there now. They called the steers and heifers $5 to $8 higher, with spots as much as $15 higher. And I would sure vouch for that. They were your NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day. And check out these well-tested weight groups, which there was many of them. But check out these weighted averages, guys. There were 251 head of the 4-weight steer calves. They averaged 452 with a weighted average price of $377.45. 314 head of the 5-weight steers averaged 556 at $329.91. 246 head of 6-weight steers averaged 652 at 294.18. 262 head of 7-weight steers, Beaver, Oklahoma, averaged 743 with a weighted average price of 275.93. There were 611 head of the 8-weight feeder steers in Beaver, sold mostly loads. They averaged 851 with a weighted average price on all of them of 264.78. 478 head of 9-weight steers in Beaver averaged 934 at 253.60. Look at some heifer groups that were well tested. How about 346 head of 5-weight heifer calves? They averaged 557 at 290.96. 214 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 658 at 265.44. And 450 head of 8-weight heifers averaged 858 at 236.98. Really good sale there at Beaver County Stockyards. Give you some individual quotes from all around, kind of show you how good things are. How about this one, especially for where it's at? Cattleman's Livestock Auction in Harrison, Arkansas. That's not too far south of West Plains. They had some weather in that area too, but still able to have a sale. They sell 85 steers in Harrison, Arkansas, weigh 681 and bring 298. Never seen anything like that before. How about up in northern part of Nebraska, Atkinson Livestock Market in Atkinson, Nebraska. The old reliable there sells 52 steers, weigh 760 at 296.50. Look at Gordon, Nebraska. They're DVAuction broadcaster. We're glad to have them. Gordon Livestock Market sells 92 steers, weigh 711 pounds at 310 and a quarter. Big time quote there. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota. It was 76 steers, weighed 915 and bring 270 smooth. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.